Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. You guys know who I am. I'm Dr. Angela Butts-Chester, and you know what I like to do on my show. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. The scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on a fire. And that's what we want to do today. We want to get you fired up about my guest. I'll be spending time today with Dr. LaNail Plummer. She's a mental health expert and founder of Onyx Therapy Group. So, you know what I'm going to tell you to do? Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Dr. LaNail. Thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Hey, Dr. Angela, how are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I cannot wait to talk to you about all that you do. But before we get started, I realize that I may be introducing you to some new listeners. So, my first question to you is tell us a little bit about yourself. What makes you you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for professional reasons, we could just say that I am the CEO of Onyx Therapy Group, which is an international mental health company. I'm also the department chair of counseling at Trinity Washington University, and I am a brand new author of the Essential Guide for Counseling Black Women, of which I just found out 20 minutes ago has hit the bestsellers list. So, I'm a best-selling author as well. So I am a multi-hyphenate mental health professional.
Oh, I love it. Now, I like how she kind of slid that in there, but we are not going to slide past it. We are going to take a moment to hoo-ha Jesus, hallelujah, praise the Lord on this show. Best-selling author is nothing to sneeze at. Congratulations, Dr. Linnell. That is awesome. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am. Now, I love that you bring together military service, clinical practice, and education. How do these expressions collectively shape the way that you understand leadership today? Because they're a little bit different, but yet there's some overlap. How do you talk about that?
I think the root of all of that would probably be the my position around education. So I tease and say that when I was a young child, I used to be really excited to go to school, and I'm still excited to go to school. I mean, I'm a department chair, right? So I still get excited to go to the school building. But I used to get really excited to go to school and then come home and teach my Barbie dolls and teach my stuffed animals everything that I learned. And so, in all the aspects, whether it's mental health, of which I am teaching clients and giving them new skills and helping them to understand and explore themselves, there's education that's involved in that and some psychoeducation. When I was in the military, I was an officer in the United States Army. And so, a lot of my work was centered around educating my soldiers and making sure that they had the information that they needed in order to be ready for whatever mission we were accomplishing that time. And then, of course, education in its most classic form, whether I'm in the classroom with my students or I'm the department chair and leading my program, all of it is centered on education. And so, to me, that is my pathway into leadership. As I continue to educate people, I continue to be able to lead them. I do truly believe that the more knowledge a person has, the more informed decisions that they can make for their lives, they can create the life that they want. And of course, that also includes aligning that with their spirituality and their spiritual practices. So even in the mental health work that I do, I bring a lot of spirituality into that because it's quite possible that my clients are getting spiritual messages, but don't necessarily know how to decipher those messages between what they're hearing from God versus maybe some of the intrusive thoughts that they've had in the past, or maybe even some of the core beliefs that have been instilled in them from their youth. And so, even in therapy, we spend time talking about spirituality and being able to dissect how they hear God versus how they have heard and processed narratives around trauma. So all of leadership in my mind is connected to education. And I think that is probably the foundation of who I am as a professional. And I get to just express it in many different ways.
Mm-hmm. I love that answer because it really and truly does hit on all of the areas in our lives that affect how we process what goes on day to day, right? So I love that you don't leave any stone unturned. Now, I also don't want to skate past this. Thank you so much for your service. As an Army mom, I have to, give a shout out and say, go Army. Love you all, but, go Army for sure. So thank you for that. Now, with over 18 years of clinical experience, what patterns have you consistently seen in how women in particular, but especially Black women, are supported or overlooked within the mental health system?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of answers there. So, I actually am celebrating my 20th anniversary as a therapist this year, and my specialty has been with Black women and the Black community in particular. And with that, my new book is dedicated to Black women, the essential guide for counseling Black women. Oftentimes and in the beginning of that book, I talk about patriarchy and how we are set in that space, and then also racism and how we are set in that space. So if there's a margin on a piece of paper, we are twice removed from that margin. And that sometimes means that we have to work harder to get closer to that margin in order to be seen. And we hear those narratives from our youth, right? I'm Gen X. And so oftentimes I would hear, you have to work twice as hard to be seen as equal or as good. And there's truth to that, unfortunately, in lots of different ways. When it comes to mental health in particular, one of the biggest disadvantages that Black women have is that our DSM, our Diagnostic Statistical Manual that we use for diagnosing, has diagnoses in there that are based off of research, and the research populations did not include Black women. And so what that means is that diagnoses don't include the way that Black women show up. It includes the way that maybe a white man shows up in therapy with a mental health disorder, or maybe a white woman, or maybe even a Latino, the way that they may show up, because they were part of the research population, but we were not part of that. So when we go to
Mhm.
therapy, our symptoms don't fit easily into some of the criteria. And so that makes it a little bit more complicated for a clinician to diagnose. If the clinician is not skilled, they will likely misdiagnose, which is part of the reason that I wrote the book, so that there would be increased understanding for clinicians and also for Black women in terms of
Mhm.
how we show up and what those different symptoms are, and the different things that we need to consider. So for instance, the way a Black woman may show up when she says that she's exhausted and tired, she may accidentally be misdiagnosed with maybe a depressive disorder, when in actuality she has a trauma disorder. But that you have to ask
Mhm.
the right questions, like, is she emotionally tired or is she physically tired? How long has this exhaustion been happening? And things like that. So the book is designed in a way to help everybody understand the unique experiences of Black women, because we were not included in the research populations, and because we are
Mhm.
double minorities and involuntary minorities. And so subsequently, the ways that we present in the world don't fit into the nice little boxes that are designed.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for bringing it to our attention. Now, when you founded Onyx Therapy Group, did you realize that this transformation needed to happen as much as it did? And if so, how did you find support? How did those around you take to the idea that this was your next purpose?
Mhm. So, yes, I recognized it, but let me backtrack just a little bit, Dr. Angela. So, one of the unique things about me is that I was a young child. I would say maybe about 4, 5 years old when I first started hearing the voice of God. And so as I was growing up, I never really felt alone, because I always felt the presence of God and the voice of God. I was probably about 8 or 9 when I realized when God was starting to tell me what some of my purposes were going to be in this world. And there was quite a few. There was maybe about 6 of them that he put me on this earth at this time to do. And so because of that, I am always spiritually led in the decisions that I make. And so I could
Mm.
see many things. I'm a therapist by nature. I was doing therapy sessions on
Mhm.
the ground in second grade. I just didn't call it. That's not what I knew. But people were like, "Hey, LaNail, let's go into the corner over here on the seesaw because I have some questions for you." And so this is who I've always been, and it aligns because it's my purpose here in life. So I always see where there's particular deficits. My decision to act on it is based off of my spirituality and my relationship with God because I believe
Mhm.
that I must be obedient. So part of the success in my life and my career is my spiritual obedience. So yes, I saw that there was a deficit when I came into the field 20 years ago as a graduate of Howard University. And and, and it was a matter of like, what am I going to do with this deficit? And at that time, God was telling me to go ahead and eventually to open up this practice. And so for several years, the company just turned 13, but for maybe about 8 or 9 years, the company was all Black women. And it was because I
Mhm.
do believe that the foundation of the Black community is the Black woman. And when the Black woman
Mhm.
is feeling solid and secure, then she can support Black men. Then she can lean in and support her children, and she could support her parents, and she could support the elders or whatever ministries and missions and jobs that she has. But my focus was
Mhm.
to help the Black woman first, and Black women tend to relate with Black women. And so I knew
Mhm.
that there was an issue that was happening in the Black community and that there was healing that was necessary and that God had put me on earth to heal. And so I was like, how am I going to do that? And that's how I began to create Onyx. So most of my career has been dedicated to the wellness and the healing for Black women, and all people benefit when we are whole and healed.
Oh, I could not agree with you more there. So
Yeah.
you are so spot on with that. I love it. I love it. Dr. Now it is time for us to take a very short break. But before we do, can you remind everyone, please, what is the easiest way, the best way to get in contact with you? If someone wants to follow you on socials, how should they get to you?
Absolutely. So on most socials like Facebook and LinkedIn, I can be found at Dr. LaNail R. Plummer. And on Instagram, I can be found at Mahogany, like the beautiful wood, Sunshine, Mahogany Sunshine. My company is Onyx Therapy Group, Onyx Therapy Group, and we're everywhere. Social media as Onyx Therapy Group, also on YouTube, and we also have podcasts. So we are also on podcasts as Onyx Therapy Group.
I love it. Alrighty, everyone, you know where you can check her out. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. My guest today is Dr. LaNail R. Plummer, and we are going to jump back into the conversation. Dr. LaNail, I love that you have taken the time to not only do the research and put the book out, but that you and your teams have done what was needed to make it a bestseller. I am talking about the book, The Essential Guide for Counseling Black Women. Yes, you heard me, y'all. It's a bestseller, which means you need to get your copy of this best-selling book. Now, if I understand correctly, it offers a practical roadmap for professionals. Now, why was it important to write a guide that is both affirming as well as actionable? And why was it important for it to be for the professional, not just the layperson?
Yeah. So that's the beauty of the book, Dr. Angela. I know that you are also a best-selling author, so congratulations to you. Um,
Thank
in the publishing world, they want to have a certain amount of characters in a title. So the title is that The Essential Guide for Counseling Black Women, but the subtitle was supposed to be For Black Women and for clinicians. Because as I was writing
Mhm.
the book, I was speaking to us and I was speaking to professionals. So I was speaking to in a way that's very relatable. It was important to me to make it that way because Black women are rising in all areas of life. We are increasing our numbers around higher education, increasing our numbers when it comes to home ownership, when it comes to certain life decisions that we're making, and also
Mhm.
our social economic status and our access to insurance. So we're getting more therapy. And sometimes
Mhm.
don't know, they'll say to me, "Hey doc, I think I want to do therapy, but what am I going to talk about?" Well, here's a book with all these chapters, things that you can
Mhm.
explore, right? Like you can talk about breaking generational cycles. You can talk about understanding your friendships and why that's unique to us as Black women and our connection to history and slavery because of it. You can talk about, how we are able to address and acknowledge certain emotions, but not other emotions, right? Because it's taboo for a
Mhm.
Black woman to feel disappointed because we're supposed to always be grateful, right? But what about if I am disappointed? How do I process that? So I wrote
Mhm.
it in a way that was relatable for Black women so that we know and can start tapping into the things that are affecting us, but that we haven't always had the space to process. So in the book, there's also journal prompts for Black women, and there's also catalyst questions for Black women, and there's also the client insights so that we see ourselves in some of the clients that I've had the opportunity to work with over the last 2 decades. But
Mhm.
it's also
Mhm.
written for clinicians because, as an educator, Dr. Angela, I get the opportunity to spend time with a lot of well-intended, good-hearted students and clinicians who want to help and want to heal, but they just don't have the information to do it. And while all of us have
Yeah.
to take a multicultural course in graduate school, the course is so generalized that it doesn't really get into the nuances of particular intersections. And so here in the
Mhm.
200 and something pages is an opportunity for clinicians to have literally a guidebook where they can say, oh, this is what my client is going through. Here's the
Mhm.
therapy that I can use because I have a table for therapy. Here are some tips that I need to consider when working with a Black woman on this topic. Here are some
Mhm.
catalyst questions that I should ask because now I have all the information but don't know what the first question should be. So here are some questions that I can ask. And
Mhm.
when the session is over and I'm sending my client home, here's her homework by using these particular prompts. I want to make it so
Yes.
easy so that people are getting the information, they're getting the research, they're getting the context, but they can open it up and literally build a treatment plan. Because in that therapy guide, I have their
Mhm.
therapeutic SMART goals, I have the interventions that they could be using during session. I wanted to make it so accessible that there's no way somebody can say, I don't know how to work with Black women. Yes, you do.
Right.
I wrote it and gave it to you. There you go. There you go. Because Black women deserve to be treated as we're precious. We deserve to be treated
Yes.
fragile. We deserve to be treated as gems and with care. We get this narrative that we are strong, and it is true that we are, but we are fragile
Mhm.
too. And sometimes people just need to have a handbook, a guidebook to be taught how to treat us with our unique intersections and the nuances based off of socialization and the messages that we've been given for our entire lives.
In the work that you do, you have found the balance, if you will, between the clinical rigor of what is required, the cultural responsiveness, but also you have figured out when to be advocate, but when also to be the quiet observer and operate with restraint. How do you keep your sense of balance? Now, I realize that I'm probably asking a question that a lot of people ask with that balance word. But I do want to give a little asterisk because when I answer that question, I say I don't necessarily believe in balance. I operate from a sense of harmony. That some things are turned up and some things are turned down, but a lot of things are always turned on. So with that being said, if you need to substitute the word balance there, but how do you keep everything firing how they should when they should?
So, Dr. Angela, are we twins or what? Because as you mentioned the question to me, I was like, I don't believe in balance. My life, LaNail, my life was never designed to be in balance. It was
Yeah,
always designed to be in harmony because
yeah.
God has consistently given me a lot and has shown me how to make movement around that, right? So
Mhm,
when I am
mhm,
out of alignment, I feel it. I feel it spiritually, I feel it in my body, I feel it in my emotions
mhm,
and sense it in the ways that I'm relating to myself and relating to others. So I think for me, it's a matter of being within structure and having harmony within those structures. And when I come out of the structure,
mhm.
that's when things kind of go astray. So I'll tell you, Dr. Angela, especially because of the platform that you have, of which I absolutely love. I spend
Thank
a
you.
lot of time in prayer and a lot of time
Mhm,
in fasting. I fast right now with my church. I'm fasting for 30 days, but every week with my friends and with my cousins, I fast on Wednesdays. And in those
mhm.
moments and in my early moments, I wake up the day and I do the things I love to do. I love water, so I wash dishes. Don't judge me.
Mhm,
And I make my tea because much like you, I love my tea
mhm.
and do my things. And then I just sit in silence and
Yeah.
I ask God to speak to me, tell me what I need to be prioritizing that
Mhm,
day. Tell me what is the focus. I am blessed for many reasons, but particularly because I yield and I ask God each day to use me as a vessel.
mhm,
Sometimes God is communicating to people and they can't hear it
mhm,
and they need a little nudge. They may need somebody to say a little something or to smile at them a certain way, or you never know what they need at that
mhm,
moment. But ask God to use me as a vessel. So I stay grounded in my spirituality because that is how God uses me. And so then there's less of a need for balance, but it also creates harmony. I also have a wonderful team because we just mentioned I do 85,000 things in 26 hours. I'm joking. I'm joking. Um, but my team that's around me are also spiritual people. In fact, my assistant
Mhm,
with me on most Wednesdays. And so we if I am getting overwhelmed, she kind of senses it before anything else, and she starts to adjust my schedule.
mhm,
She starts to do other things, and my team prays for me. My friends are praying for me, and my family is praying. Like we are always in constant prayer and spirituality.
mhm,
Like I said, I knew since I was 4. On a side note, my great grandfather was a Baptist preacher. And so I grew up in the church, but I had my ways, the moments where I wasn't in church, right? Um,
mhm,
and that's a whole nother journey, a whole nother conversation for another day. But in all of that, God has stayed consistent with me. So there's less need for balance. Now, from a organizational perspective, my schedule is very tight. We do not compromise on my schedule. I wake up in the morning and I have my rituals and routines that keep me grounded. I go to bed at night with my rituals and routines that keep me grounded. I drink tea, which has its own herbs and healing powers in it.
mhm,
I
mhm,
go to the doctor, I go to my own therapist. Like I physically take care of my body so that my
mhm,
body is not a distraction from the purpose and the mission that I'm supposed to be doing. Instead, it's
mhm,
part of the vessel and the tool for God's utilization.
mhm, mhm. Oh, yep. I think I found my long lost twin here. I love it. I love it. And but it is so incredibly important to understand who you are. Of course, we know whose we are, but to understand, I like to call it the God downloads, the pieces of information that God gives us throughout the day, throughout our lives, and just go, oh God, that was good. Okay, yep, I'm gonna do that, right? And to add to, I like how you fast on Wednesdays. I have dedicated prayer on Wednesdays for not only my team, but for any clients that I have seen, any interviews that I have done. And that way, it's like I am covering as many people as I could possibly think of to be able to like call them by name. And I think that that is, as certain types of leaders, it's just what we do because we feel so inclined to do it. And if not us, who? Now, Dr. LaNail, this is the last question I have for you, but I could definitely talk to you for much, much longer. So,
Ditto, ditto.
right, as we are closing out our Black History Month, and the theme is Still We Rise, Still We Lead. What does responsible, ethical leadership look like when caring for the mental and emotional well being of others? What is one thing we can make sure we are doing?
Mm. Ooh, I like that, Dr. Angela. So I teach a leadership course at my university. And funny enough, last night the class was on ethical leadership. Um, but the class is designed more in a philosophical kind of way because I think that
Mhm,
leadership is philosophical by nature. Everybody is a different type of leader, um, whether it's horizontal or vertical or whatever the model is. But from an ethics perspective, I think the biggest thing to understand, especially philosophically, is that what is right for one person is not always right for the other person. And
mhm,
I think that we have gotten into a space in our culture where we think my way is right. And that's very
mhm,
egocentric. And it doesn't give room for the other person to have experiences that are different, but also powerful and impactful. So
mhm,
I guess the answer to that would be if, as we are caring for the mental health of other people, and they're asking us to guide them to their own self-actualization, to being the best versions of themselves, is that they are not asking us to be a replication of who we are. They're
mhm,
asking us
mhm,
instead to help them become who God has created them to be, which
mhm,
means that we have to help them remove some of the blockers to
mhm,
clean their glasses, if you will,
mhm,
um, and to make things pure for them. So the ethical, the thing that I would love to leave with is that as we are caring for the mental health of others, we need to truly see them for who they are. We need
mhm,
to appreciate, not just tolerate, but we need to appreciate and see the value and the uniqueness of who they are. And we need to understand that what is right for them may not be right for us in our personal lives, but it may be aligned with what their purpose on this life, on this earth is. So
mhm,
treat everybody with care, treat them as they are precious, treat them with as if they are gems and your most
mhm.
treasured possession. Treat everybody as if they are your most treasured possession.
I love it. Yes, listeners, now you see why she was invited to share with us today. I love it. Dr. Linnell, thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I've so enjoyed my conversation with you. Now, before I let you go, though, if you will please remind everyone of two things. Number one, your book, of course, is available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. But if someone wants to pick up a copy, are they able to get that book on your website? If so, remind us of the title. Speaking of website, what's your website and how do we follow
Absolutely.
you on socials?
Absolutely. The website is onyxtherapygroup.com. That's spelled Onyx, like the beautiful, deep, dark crystal that represents transformation. So
Mhm,
onyxtherapygroup.com. You know, the book is sold everywhere. So I didn't sell it on the website. It's on Amazon, at Walmart, at Target, at Barnes and Nobles, most
mhm,
independent stores. So you could just put the name of the book in your Google search and it's going to come up in a bookstore near you. So that
mhm.
book is the essential guide for counseling Black women. And our website is onyxtherapygroup.com. And I am Dr. LaNail R. Plummer, and so humbled and grateful to have spent time with you today, Dr. Angela.
Thank you. So glad you were here.
Yeah.
And listeners, thank you for spending some time with us as well. You could have been anywhere and you chose to spend it with us, and I thank you for doing so. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.